from. Welcome to today's live session. Today we'll be talking about urban change detection and looking through some few slides that I'll be able to share with you, and a small demo, and also an opportunity for you to try some of these notebooks on your side. As a matter of introduction, Digital Earth Africa has been providing this analysis ready data, which means it's very easy now for you to do any kind of analysis. For example, today's topic of urban change detection. So to get us started, just have to do some small definitions here and there. For example, just giving you an overview of the tool that this one is able to use Sentinel-2. This is annual geomedian, which means that they are corrected for clouds. So they're cloud-free mosaics compiled from 2017, which are very useful to give you a change between a baseline period and now. And also on this urban growth, we use this index called Enhanced Normalized Differential Impervious Surface Index, which has been seen to work very well in some parts of different landscapes, especially where we could have semi-arid or arid areas, not very formal areas. So the index is actually computed using other parameters, as you've seen, even looking at the water index and etc., and the bands that you need from your Sentinel-2. From the Digital Earth Africa, they made it very easy, where you're able just to load the imagery and apply the index itself and work within some thresholds to delineate urban growth, extent, and finally, just do the final comparison for your research or for your work or for your presentation with your peers and partners. So to get us at least comfortable is we have an example of a city in Uganda where we had these coordinates, latitude and longitude, and we are working with someone from an institution in Kampala to look at the changes around this area. And this particular person, Dr. Jane, has been able to do some of her work after her PhD, looking at how the city has grown over time. And she was able to resonate with some of the changes that we are seeing for this small city in the northern of Uganda, which had a background on how it was affected because of urban growth. Coming close from Ghana, we have an example of Efaduase, which is just next to Kumasi, which has really grown very fast. At those extents, been able to see some changes over time, looking at the baseline and looking at the extent at different times, over 5 kilometers squared, which is quite big. And you can see the growth is mainly around the city and the primary roads leading to the city, which is very typical for urban growth in most of our cities in Africa. Coming now close home to Kumasi, we have the similar results. The city has grown over time, and even looking at these, the color in red will show the areas which have really grown over time. And also the areas in blue could show some elements of policy where maybe the government has said at least this area should be preserved for a park or etc. But generally, everyone is moving, and even recently they were improving the international airport, which means there's a lot of people coming and doing economic activities. Going to other examples in the southern area, Harare, Zimbabwe, we also see the same situation. The growth has been quite phenomenal over the 3 or 4 years, which has been attributed to the various policies with the new government, bringing in expansion, bringing in companies to do a lot of developments within roads and infrastructure. Going also another example of Habrone, we have similarly seen the same, the case of Habrone, but at least manageable. It extends within the city and also in areas around the, we also have the reserve around here, and the city's grown around this in the suburbs quite big. Also, we have another example of Nairobi, which has also grown over time. And as you can see from the animation, a lot has happened. And just as giving an indication, the areas in red were mostly suburb areas, which were coffee, and now have been sold to real estate, which is typical of some of the cities that we have Having another local example in Johannesburg, just around Sandton areas and some areas, we've seen some changes over time, which has also been attributed to the very strong economic activities over time. And even remembering that a few years ago, they hosted the World Cup. This is quite useful for the countries in terms of development. Also having another example is, I could just go through a small demo on the same so that I don't lose anybody. So this is the notebooks on GitHub. As you see, we normally have the real world examples, and from the same, you can look at the urban change detection, which is similar to what I'll show you in the Sandbox itself, of which most of you already have Sandbox accounts. So in your Sandbox, you can see the urban change extent example. And also what I can do is that I can also share this link on the chat for you to view. This is the urban change example. So it means here you don't do a lot of changes. It's just changing the extent of the area and working with the index and see how it can work for your area of interest. Also being cognizant that we have dynamic landscapes. So for these particular examples, it was just a matter of changing the extents of the area to make it more workable for this extent, the latitude and the longitude. And also all these two, I can also take them to the D-Africa maps just for, we see how we can complement these two programs together on the D-Africa. You can zoom to an extent of an area, and also the same, you can load different imageries just as a way of coping with the different technologies. And this is the subreactance. And I'm looking at the annual geomod for Sentinel-2, and still the same. You can even filter by the area, and you can be able to see if you can actually do a comparison of the two from what we have. And one could be a different date, and the other one can be 2021. Then you can just zoom into some specific areas. For example, around the airport, there's a commercial park which was set up in terms of setting up a railway, which you can see some changes over time. So what you are seeing on the left could be 2017, and the other one is 2021. So you can see some of these changes. And the beauty of what I'm saying is that I can share as a bookmark and share on chat for you to share with anybody else. So this means that with these two platforms, we can really do a lot of connectivity, and even working with your communications person, you can develop your story from the images you get here, and also the stories that you generate from also the Sandbox. So these two platforms are quite complementary each other. And of course, for the buffer areas, you always know how to adjust. You could adjust to any figures and see how this works. You can even do a 0.2 and just do the box. You can see the changes, the extent of the area. So most of this work is always good just to play around and see what happens. And also as you investigate the area of your choice, and also going down, you'll see the changes that I've seen between the 2 years, 2017, 2021, and also working now on the index. It's normally helpful, especially when we have the impervious surface layers, which are quite hard to declassify. And for those who've been doing that classification, have been able to see some of it behaves like bare soil, and sometimes it can behave like a lake. So with this enhanced index, it's able to pick up the urban areas very well, and computation is done, and you can see the change over time. And also you can identify some of the hotspots, which are very useful for any kind of work. So like I mentioned, around this area, around the airport, has been development in red. That was an issue of an area of economic zone in terms of the railways. And the areas which have remained blue, this is a national park area and conservation areas which have been put under guard by the governments and also different scenarios. So also going, we have another example of the Gulu, which I was able to show you in Uganda. And for you who's new to the platform, we don't do much of programming. It's just to know the areas and understand how you work with your areas. And also when you open a notebook, you can always save it as a different name so that in case you need to go back to it, it's not deleted, as we've received some comments. So I think I saw someone ask me about an example for Lusaka. So you can just save this one as Lusaka, for example. And I can go to the name where Lusaka is. And this is the particular notebook. And now what I'll have to do is actually go to Lusaka on the D-Africa maps to get the actual extent of the area. And also, we do have any other areas, but at least for now, I'm able to do that example. So here you can always type and to take you to the city. That's a good thing of the D-Africa maps, and I can just zoom in the middle, and I can pick in some lat long coordinates, which I have 1541, which is minus because it's south, and I have 28 to 8. And these ones now I'll go to my Sandbox and edit respectively so that we can see how things look in Lusaka for Mr. Elijah calling from Lusaka. So once you change your extents, you just go to kernel and restart all the cells, and it will be able to run, and it will show you some interesting results. Also letting you know that we also have the user guide where you might need more information in terms of the literature used. So in this case, we are looking at the Sandbox, and you can go to the analysis Sandbox and you look at, for example, today's example of a real world example. And I could go to the urban change so that I can get more documentation. So this will be the same notebooks and all the parameters, and also maybe more opportunities for more information at the bottom in terms of the references or some of the work or additional information in case we need to do some citations or improvements. So that was it. And then on the same platform, we are on the Sandbox. Most of you have been able to register, and also going to the D-Africa YouTube. You will see we have videos and we have the playlist. And today we are on the live sessions. So what will happen after today is we'll be able to upload it in the live sessions so that you can share with your friends who were not able to connect with us. So the example for Lusaka was continuing, and it was pretty much okay, but I know my colleague might want better results. So you can just go into the middle of the city. You can always choose to stop and go to somewhere in the middle and just pick the few coordinates with you and copy and go to this interface and just work with what you need. So you see, if you've used other platforms, this is fairly easy. Today you've graduated, you've been able to use the Sandbox. You can see now you can do much more. And even from running there, you can actually say run selects all cells and below. It will actually show you at least it's running bigger extent, or you can even choose to stop and make it bigger because you need to capture much more information for the city. You can put it there and see how the extents work. So that's a small extent. So what we do, you can make it a 0.1, make it easier for you to actually explore more. At least it's something good for the city. Then now you can just go there and even change the dates for 2021 so that it actually does all the jobs for you and can restart and run all the cells. This is a very good example. And also as a bonus topic, we can look at the urban index comparison, which is still very new for us because we have to compare with the ground truth data from the global human settlements. So this particular example, we had the example for Dar es Salaam, just a matter of changing the extents. And when you move closely to the notebooks, it uses the Landsat Geomat to get at least a bigger comparison in terms of time, at least 2013 to today. And also it is able to mask out information from the water observation from space, because some of these cities are lying around the ocean because of this classification. It's quite possible to see the scenario that you have. So we have the build-up index and we have the enhanced index that I mentioned about, and you can be able to see the plot below, the small classification, even having a feel of the thresholds between the different bands, indices, and comparison with the urban growth areas, which means this particular area didn't have the exact data, but for the same data I had for Dakar, which was able to run up to the end because there was availability of the data from the global human settlements layer, which is from UN Habitat. So some of these layers are still experimental, and we try to add much more information on the same. I will be able to add more data based on your queries and examples that you wish to see, and also just going back to the one for Lusaka so that we can see how the completion is, and just complete in a few. So those are changes between 2017, 2021, which look quite good. And going now to the enhanced index, you can see much more information, and you can see the figures and statistics. And now it can even show you some of the urban change hotspot areas as follows. So I think this is quite informative for now, as I pause back and looking at the participation on whether there's a question from you. So
much this time, Kenneth, but just a reminder, leaders, that if you haven't already, please join our community of users WhatsApp group. There we talk about DE Africa events. We share some of the developments that are happening in that space, as well as these live sessions. So the joining link is in the chat box. Please do make sure you click on that if you haven't already. And a reminder that these sessions happen every Wednesday. We alternate between English and French. Today I'm speaking English. Next week we will speak French. So please do diarize those, whether you're into whichever language, and it will be lovely to meet you at 11 a.m. GMT. Thank you so much for the opportunity, Ken.
Thank you so much. Thank you everybody for connecting us. We'll see you next week, same place, same time. And this live session is only possible with your support, and wishing you all the best in your research. And as we present some of your work, very soon you guys are publishing very good stories that we are reading. Thank you so much. Professor from Cameroon, Burkina, everybody, Ghana, Kenya, Victoria, Kenya, South Africa, Egypt. Everyone is connected. Thank you so much. And next time, bye-bye.
Bye.